till Samuel dies. I wish I could emote as him. What are you doing? Get in there. Get back in there.
Life. We run and we die. You did not choose this.
Oh my god, that was perfect. Bonjour, mon ami. Hello everybody, welcome to another build guide video by Sinow, your new home for everything Resident Evil Resistance. And I have finally managed to find a build for Daniel that I like playing. I noticed on the channel that there was a conspicuous lack of any Daniel builds, and it's because for a long time now I've just thought he was quite a weak mastermind actually. He's really prone to getting bullied by survivors, but I've managed to find a build that kind of somewhat mitigates the sense of you being bullied by survivors, and I really like it. I'm calling it the Munchy build after Daniel's line where he calls one of the zombies General Munchy.
This is General Munchy.
So this is a Munchy Daniel build, and the whole point of this build is to go for the grab, bite a survivor, and then bounce out of a zombie, and keep doing that over and over. So you're not buffing up one zombie and swiping a lot and grabbing or anything like that. What you want to do with this build is you want to repeatedly grab, bite, and then if you you'll get knocked back, fine, go for another zombie, do something else. If the zombie is still alive and it begins to get up again, you can re-enter it, bite the survivor again, bounce back out. You basically want to do a playstyle here which is quite dynamic and kind of rough and tumble. There's a lot of like biting survivor, back out, bite survivor, back out, and try not to stay in one zombie for too long. Let me show you how you build this. Okay, so first of all, for your skills, for Tyrant, aka Mr. X, I prefer Brutality with the increased hook punch speed and damage. The reason that I prefer this is because I think it's a bit more reliable. I've been getting better at Bull Rush recently, and I have managed to get a couple of downs from it from long range, but I find in general you're more reliable when you have the increased hook punch speed and damage, because if you just keep using it over and over, sometimes survivors can't escape very easily and you get a down anyway. Then for Bloodlust's passive, we need to use Rend here, which greatly increases grab attack damage dealt by controllable creatures. So this isn't a one bite KO build that Swing made quite popular. I think that's a really fun build, but it's unfortunately become less viable as the player base for survivors have gotten more skilled. Instead, with the attack passes and stuff that I'll show you coming up, you can actually usually down survivors in 2 bites with this, and I think that's still pretty impressive, but you need to use Rend, and that will give you a large chunk of damage when you do get a successful bite off. Then for the Puppeteer passive, so you can't use Sadist to get the extra damage here because survivors will be able to just like hit or shoot your zombie, and usually the knockback will cause it to get stunned, so it won't be able to complete the bite animation. So you need to use Endurance here, and this is why it's a Daniel build in particular, because Endurance makes it so that your zombies can only be stunned out of the grab animation by being killed, by being stunned by one of Martin's traps or his ultimate, his fever, or by Tyrone's kick or a grenade, you know, like something kind of special as opposed to just like normal gunfire or normal kind of melee damage. And I find that without Endurance, it's just too difficult to get grabs on survivors reliably, so stick with Endurance for this one. For Area 2, we are using the Regen Dealer. Regen Dealer is actually quite nice because if you manage to use her kind of dash grab and down a survivor, you take off 5 seconds per slash that you do on top of them, plus you take away 10 umbrella credits per slash, and a lot of the time because of your increased damage you'll actually get a down from them anyway as well. So you can take off like 25 to 30 seconds from the slashes, and then if they die you take off another 30 seconds, which is really, really nice. So we're using Regen Dealer for that. Armored Zombie, it's kind of no-brainer really. Armored Zombie is such a strong zombie. It's really hard to kill this without strong melee damage. It shuts down a lot of like kind of Sniper Becca type stuff. Really good choice of zombie to buff up and then control for guaranteed grab. Then for your equipment, so we're using Electric Cable 1 here, and that's because we had 1 leftover point, but there's 2 main equipment that you use for this build. You want Razor Claws 3. This greatly increases the attack power of creatures and is the reason why you can down survivors in 2 grabs. And Resilient Skin 3, this greatly increases the maximum health of creatures. So one of the reasons why maximum health is so important is A, because we're using Enhancer Regen, so it gives that more value as well. And also B, if a zombie has more maximum health, it is less likely to die when you're in the middle of the grab animation before you get the bite off. And this can be very important because if your zombies are dying too quickly and you can't get the bites off, then basically the build has been shut down and you're not going to get as much value out of it. I also just find that having maximum health increase is generally quite useful anyway. It makes survivors have to spend more resources to kill your zombies, makes them tougher. It generally just tends to be quite good, but for this build it's really important because it gives you more time to make sure that you're doing your grabs successfully. Moving on to the deck. So this is the deck that we're using here. You will notice, first of all, let's talk about the enhancers, because this is the thing that I kind of ummed and awed about the most. I initially was using Bio Leech, but I find that you spend so much time controlling creatures and jumping in and out of them, especially with regen and the enhanced health, that Bio Leech is maybe not as important for this build. If anything, it kind of baits me into summoning zombies that I sometimes don't need and accidentally feeding survivors time. So for this build, I like to go for Enhancer Regen, which synergizes really nicely with increased health like I just said before, and then I like to use Enhancer Berserker. So Enhancer Berserker makes your zombies faster, and that means that you're more likely to catch survivors with the grab, both when you're controlling the zombie and then afterwards. If the zombie survives, it's more likely to get up quicker, grab again, do another bite, makes your zombies just like quicker, so therefore a bit more aggressive. And I find that even when you're not controlling zombies, sometimes they do a lot of damage in the background, especially if they manage to get a bite off with the increased damage. So this is actually really nice. It keeps your armies also a little bit more mobile. If your zombies have Berserker, they're more likely to chase after survivors kind of slowly throughout the map. So that if they do a stun and run technique, you're more likely to have your like tough regened up zombies eventually path their way towards where the survivors are, and it helps to mitigate some of that, particularly in area 2, I would say. When it comes to the creatures we're using here, so your bread and butter are your tough zombies. These are zombies that are very hard to kill off before they get off the bite animation, so you'll find that you're more consistently getting bite animations off with the tough zombies. We're using an infectious tough here as well as a normal tough one because basically we've managed to discover, and by we I mean the people in the unofficial Resistance Discord. I want to shout out Cloud in particular, who's doing a lot of like data mining to find out values of things. We've discovered that a lot of infection is caused actually through damage. I think it's like 10% of the damage you cause is actually also applied as infection, as you can see on the graph on the screen here. And with the tough zombie infectious and the zombie infectious here, you'll find that you're actually infecting survivors quite frequently, and every time you do a successful grab, you do like a big chunk of damage, and that also infects the survivors quite a lot. So I was originally trying to use viral canisters and things like that for this build, but I've kind of shied away from using that because we're doing so much damage and we're using 2 types of infectious zombie anyway, that tends to do the job regardless. So zombie infectious, you need to be careful with this one because it is quite liable to getting picked off by survivors too quickly to get the grab off, but regardless, it is nice for applying infection. We have the Jester. So the Jester is really good for this build if you hide it in the right position, because unlike things like leg hold traps or immobilizing shot, it's a little bit better at stunning survivors so that you can guarantee grabs on them. I find it's a bit more reliable in that regard. And you can also grab them with the Jester if you control it as well, or just the Jester can do it of its own accord occasionally. Its own accordion if it is a real Jester. Bonjour. So it's a nice pickup, but be careful because the Jester can get picked off and it doesn't have a lot of health. It's like a normal zombie. We're also using efficiency mod creatures here, which makes everything 1 cost less, so it's a little bit cheaper, which is good. And finally, we're using crawling zombie. So I find that crawling zombie is quite nice for this deck for 2 main reasons. One, we don't have energy leech, so we might not have like super high economy. We are spawning quite a lot of tough zombies though, which have a lot of value themselves. So crawling zombie is nice because it allows you to cycle through the deck, and if a crawling zombie grabs a survivor, it does an animation where, well, first of all, it's going to do like a grab bite, which will do a nice chunk of damage alone. But it will also it like makes the survivor kind of get held in place, and you can't hit the survivor out of that animation. With things like a mobilizing shot, if you hit a survivor, it kind of like stops the animation where they're standing still. But with a crawling zombie, they're like they do the whole animation where they're being grabbed and bitten, regardless of what you're doing in the background when it comes to like swiping at them. So what will usually happen with crawling zombie, if it manages to get a grab, is you should wait for the animation to play out and keep swiping with whatever zombie you're controlling at the time. And then once it's finished doing its animation, you then grab with your zombie on top of it. And by that point, with all of the swipe damage, the crawling zombie damage, and also your second grab, the survivor is usually down by that point. They don't really have much chance unless their team is right there to help them. And finally, to round things out here, we're using the tracker mine. Tracker mine is nice because it makes survivors take more damage, which is good. It allows you to cycle through your deck to get to the enhancers that you need quicker, for instance, which is also really nice. And it also highlights where survivors are. Quite a lot of the playtime that you spend with this deck will be like kind of waiting for a survivor to come through a door and then going for the grab. And that tends to be a very nice, reliable way to grab people. But to ensure that the survivor is actually standing where you want them to be, you'll find that the tracker mine actually helps you like kind of see through the door to make sure that you know what's happening, rather than you like busting out the door to surprise them, which I like to do frequently, and then realizing that everybody's taken a couple of steps back and then they just gun you down. You're like, oh, whoops. That's a little embarrassing. And I find that tracker mine helps you avoid those situations because it marks where all the survivors are. And finally, quick draw. Quick draw can help you get to enhancers when you want them, and it can also help you get away from enhancers when you don't want them. I also need to point out here that for my map preset, so I've been a little bit lazy. I am using the same map preset that I usually use for most builds, where I use lickers and tough infectious zombies as much as possible. And I spread them out so that there's more chances of infecting survivors, and that also helps keep up your infection. Plus you can control them and bite survivors, and if you bite a survivor with an infectious zombie, it does more infection. So that's really useful. So for your preset, very quickly, I would just suggest that you use tough infectious zombies and lickers. So I'm using 2 lickers here and a tracker mine for this one. Area 2, as you saw, infectious zombies spaced out, tough infectious zombies spaced out, and then for area 3, a couple of tough zombies, infectious spread out again. This helps you just kind of apply a consistent infection pressure, and they're also a good target for you to control as a zombie, so it works really nicely. Okay, so that wraps up the how to make this build and how to play it segment. We're going to move into some gameplay now. My first part of gameplay is just one area to make things a bit quicker. And then my second gameplay is a full match, where things kind of work out really well in area 1, then they go pear-shaped in area 2, and area 3, well, I'll leave that as a surprise for you folks, but some good matches, I think, to really show off this build, and I'm pretty happy with how things turned out. After the matches, stick around for the pros and cons, where I discuss things to look out for, or things that can counter you, some frustrations, but also some great pros of this build, and we'll wrap things up there. Martin is usually a pain in the ass for this build, as is Jill, but they're both low rank. And then Valkyrie QA. Oh, hi Valkyrie. I recognize you.
Bonjour, mon ami.
Quite a high rank Valerie. Valerie can shoot out your buffs, which is frustrating. That was a bit of a rough area 1 for me, but this build is like kind of stronger area 2, I would say. One of the reasons why it gets stronger is that zombies gain more health in area 2 and then even more health in area 3. So you'll find in area 1 that they tend to get killed too quickly for you to do much. Okay, I'm going to put Berserker on these two to see if they go for a grab, and then save my regen for this room, perhaps. These guys are quite fast, so I don't want to take too much time. If they go through the top path, then I might be able to set up for a Yorick play, actually. I'd really want Berserk on him, though, for that. There we go. Where are they moving? Okay, so they're all just going top. Unless January decides to change. Yeah, she's going to... Okay. Remember, like I said, this build likes it when people go off by themselves. There's a grab. I wouldn't have got that grab, probably, unless for Berserk.
Sometimes it's easiest just to do things yourself. You understand me. Oui?
Nice. He pushes off. Grab again. And he's down. You see that? It's brilliant.
Yep, that's locked.
The hat and trench coat.
Need to protect my boy Yorick here, so.
Yes?
Well, Martin's not here, thank goodness. Perfect. She's down anyway. Don't need to punch her anymore. Let's go harass the others, shall we? And this is why I ended up using regen as well, is that the more situations you have where they're just not doing anything to you, it still works out really nicely. He unfortunately closed this door. This is a difficult area for Mr. X. There's so many doors and things that you get caught on. It's hard to do proper dash punches. Move! Okay, Yorick's not down yet. I'll just start punching.
The bars of the cage fall into place. You are close to the heart of knowing. You know we set this up good.
Ah, Valerie, you're so frustrating sometimes. The king is down, I repeat, the king is down.
This really is not a very efficient way of...
Nope, you should have turned around to try and hit me there.
But orders are orders.
So they managed to claw it back there. It's unfortunate, Mr. X got stunned for a very long time. Well, the Jester just like didn't have a chance there, really.
It feels no pain. The perfect machine.
Martin's in here, grab him. Remember, Martin has the lowest HP, so if you bully him, sometimes it works out really nicely. Also, wow, 2 grabs at once there. If your zombies grab people... Oh, she rage quit. Oh, the rage quit. Perfect. Either that or she was lagging and she just had enough, but I'm gonna call it a rage quit. Come on, give me this one. Because your zombies have so much health and regen, and they have more attack, you'll sometimes find that this build like kind of wins in the background for you, even when you're not controlling the zombies directly. It's very weird to win like that for me. But it does happen. I think this chill knows.
That could not have gone better. I rule.
That was good though, because they were like a pretty decent group and I had like a difficult area 1. So I felt like I didn't just stomp them there and they had some chops, you know what I mean? So I'm quite happy that that is some footage that I managed to show you guys of this build, because it wasn't just like, oh, complete baby survivors that I bullied to death there. But bullying is definitely something you should try and do with this build while we're talking about it. If somebody's by themselves, going for them is usually a very strong idea. Alright, what do we got here? Ugh. Tyrone. He kicks a lot when you try and grab people. Very frustrating. Jill as well. I bet she uses a rocket launcher constantly. Valerie can headshot out your buffs. Okay. This is a... No Martin. I probably hate Martin more than anyone else with this build, but... This is... Ugh.
But today, I see something new.
Let's see if I can get this room buffed up quickly enough. I should be able to.
If only
I'm quick.
Let us look together.
Berserk and regen combo, let's go. Here comes Valerie.
Sometimes it's easiest just to do things yourself. You understand.
Having the map up when you go through the door like that will help quite a lot. Oh, they missed their grenade. Nice. And there you go, the crawling zombies doing work.
That could be a key.
Second grab on Tyrone. Unfortunately, he still has a lot of his health. I think he ate a green hair, but the Jill is rushing through my loop too much. I need to stop that.
Some dead person. I do not recognize them. This really is not a very efficient way of ending your life. But
remember, grabs from behind are immediate, and the combo with the liquor there is really nice. She's in trouble now. Punish people for running. Punish, punish, punish.
He feels no pain.
Down you go.
Perfect machine.
That's what you
for
get,
this
Jill.
endeavor.
I know she's become a liability for her team. The chances of her rage quitting have just shot up, by the way. People get so angry when they can't just rush through this level by themselves, I swear. That's what you get, Jill. Tough titties.
Sometimes it's easiest just to do things yourself. You understand.
Ah, she's got that passive where she puts the grenade in your mouth. That's frustrating. Liquor, please. Liquor.
He feels no pain.
Licky boy.
The perfect machine
I'll take it.
for this endeavor.
And she's down. Oh no, she's actually not like down. That's unfortunate. Okay.
This really is not a very
Nice
efficient
scream
way of
there.
ending your life.
Let's grab Tyrone because he will probably kick if I don't grab him. Remember, they're all infected here as well, so they're gonna start losing tons of time.
Wah, wah.
And they didn't get the supply zombie. You know what? I'm gonna go aggro here with the Ivy. That might be a mistake, but who knows?
Go find the place to use that. There is more
Can I maybe fed them a bit?
fun for me at least. Sometimes it's easiest just to do things
I
yourself.
would normally not do. Okay, yeah, I totally shouldn't have used Ivy. You know, there was a little voice in the back of my head that was like, save it for Area 2, but I got cocky because I'm recording for YouTube. Save that shit.
I didn't expect to be so successful so soon.
I kind of fed them at the end of that zone. I shouldn't have done that. This is why I don't run Energy Leech, because it encourages me to spawn too much.
Fate
Tisk
has
tisk,
more
Sinow.
cards to turn for you
Should
yet.
have played that way better. Somebody's already trying to get out here. You see that? Let's see if I can
He feels no
surprise
pain.
someone.
The perfect machine for this endeavor.
Remember, it's 5 seconds per swipe when you do that. Okay,
This
is getting a bit ridiculous.
Bloody McBloodface.
so let's help buff my liquor and dog army that I've used with this preset. My presets for this are just the same as I usually do, where it's like lots of liquors and lots of liquors, pardon me, and poison tough zombies.
This really is not a very efficient way of ending your life. But
Oh, he didn't get his ultimate off in time there. Sit on the munch. Unfortunately, that didn't really work out for me, but there you go.
this is General Munchy. Sometimes it's
Here comes
easiest
General Munchy.
just to do things yourself. You
And there goes Tyrone. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Nice.
How the fuck does this thing work? The trader I got it from was very shady. This really is not a very efficient way of ending your life.
I gotta protect my boy somehow.
Orders are orders. You killed Yorick! No sorrow, no regret.
If I get a scream here, oh, I can't believe he managed to kill him. That's unfortunate. The person with the key card though is who I should really concentrate on, but
All the pieces I have put in place led you here. You have no hope.
I'm surprised the grenade hasn't come out here. They might just try and door cheese me. Yeah, she used her healing spray. I should just set up for the next terminal and see if I can get anything to happen here and make a play or two.
The dripster, because bits are dripping off them.
Sometimes you just have to give up on an objective. 60 seconds because they got the supply zombie in there, as per usual.
I have all those to fuck up your life. This definitely fits. He feels no pain. The perfect.
She doesn't seem to be using the rocket launcher as much as I would suspect, but maybe I just haven't seen it. She went for the camera for some reason, but I don't know about that actually. Oh, somebody's feeling cocky, are they?
Yes, that is how we do it, my friend.
Okay.
Dr. Wesker wants your fear. They want your flesh. I do not.
Don't give up. If you're having a rough area 2 like I am, or rough area 1 too. Area 1 went well. Area 2 not so well. Don't give up. I've totally won on Area 3 with this build before, even when things look really rough. I'm just gonna have to play smart. Buff up my creatures. Hopefully they'll get a biocore in the right, which is where I've put all my
This
liquors.
day is more interesting than I expected.
I was gonna say, give me some enhancers, please. I don't want to spawn things outside of the door because they'll probably just blow them up. That's not gonna work. But I need to support this phalanx later on because if they just throw grenades in, it's easy. Okay, my liquors are already reacting, so they're probably coming in here. Yeah, that's where the first biocore is, so...
Sometimes it's easiest just to do things yourself.
Without infection, they're kinda... I need something to, like, interrupt them occasionally, you know?
Hey, let's feel. When did they die?
I should already used her grenade. And then they opened the door at the right moment, but here comes the liquors. All of the grenades in the sun here. Come on, hurry up. Oh, that stun is so long, but you got grabbed anyway.
This one I call the mold machine.
I have to go for it. Yes, a nice scream from the clown in there. Unfortunately, Jill is just fucking my shit up, as per usual. Okay, he's down. Protect the core if I can. Yeah, Jill is very difficult to play against. She's gonna take out the zombies as well. Ugh. Oh, she got grabbed though. Perfect. She's down too.
The cogs turn.
If they try and save their friend, then they're gonna have a bad time. Oh, unfortunately though, I didn't get Valerie with this. I'm gonna try and waste her time, but she's gonna be able to revive them, I think.
I do not count the deaths anymore.
Quickly.
But then, I never.
Come on, Lickers, you can do it.
This is General Munchy.
Yes, 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 go for it. Locking that door in the background as well.
This really is not a very efficient way of ending your life.
Remember, we have so much extra health now that it's really hard for them to take down creatures. She's downed. That's why we're running the dealer, by the way.
He feels no pain. The perfect machine for this endeavor.
Got Tyrone too. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay, he's not dead though, because I didn't get the extra animation.
Good fucking luck, my friend.
Jill's getting grabbed over here. Remember, this build punishes people who run off by themselves quite well.
Damn, locked. I've got this.
So I've managed to take them from about 8 minutes down to about 5, which is good, but not GG. I need to be careful because they're probably just going to throw a grenade in here. They look like they're kind of running out of resources though, like this Valerie. She's running around with red health.
The perfect machine for this endeavor.
for a reason, I think. Yeah, she's down. I think they've decided to just sacrifice her.
I confess.
I don't think I have enough time here. I need to buff.
To breaking shit, but this is hopeless. You should give up now.
Armored zombie is good for me.
Sometimes it's
Here comes the kick. Oh, I grabbed him at the last minute.
You understand.
Yes, he's down.
Let's go.
You see the things you have forced me to do?
I owe you my life.
No matter.
Keep punching.
The stain of
She's
your
down again.
blood will be drawn by many more.
I gotta be more careful. Thanks for pulling me out.
She's down too. Oh, nice kick from Tyrone there, actually. Oh, but he got caught. He got caught on my body. Down he goes. As per usual, this Jill though. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna close the door.
A little party in there? Oui. Woohoo. Mine,
I can't let her just run off.
No, you are not.
She's purchasing something right now. Let's do this.
Out of time, but it looks like you're
Yes.
even trying.
Look at all that time I shredded off her. Perfect. If I can get her with the second zombie, this should be GG.
Time is running out for you, my
There we go.
friends.
That's GG, folks. Good game, though. Really tough for me until Area
Bad
3.
luck, my friend.
Well played, guys.
Civilization calls for your death, and you resist.
What did I say
Why?
at the end of Area
What do you
2?
have to live for?
Things were looking really rough there. And that's... Oh, God, I love this game for the fact that it's not over until it's over. Remember that your creatures get an HP buff in Area 2 and then a bigger one in Area 3. And that's one of the reasons why it could turn around in the last act. Perfect, perfect. But I had to play really well there. Try and look out for HP totals and then like judge how much resources they had and things like that. I'm surprised Valerie didn't heal more with her healing items, but regardless, good game, good game. So, now that we've seen the Munchy Daniel build in action, as always, let's discuss its pros and cons. One of the pros of this build is that it's really, really good at punishing survivors that like to run off by themselves. This could either be a Jill and or a Samuel, for instance, who love to run ahead of the group and try and pick up lots of key items and things like that alone. Or it could just be uncoordinated groups that have somebody, one or two people kind of run off by themselves and just not really keep up with the rest of them. This build really, really shines at picking off stragglers or picking off people who try and rush through the level. And you should try and use your map as much as possible to keep an eye on anybody who seems to separate from the group and get a couple of grabs on them. A general rule of thumb is that 2 grabs is enough to down someone from a high level of health. So bear that in mind. If you have more than one zombie, you could do like a chain grab and manage to down them. And then from there, things tend to snowball. Another pro of this build is that there's less investment in like a single zombie or a single zombie pack than something like a Stromby build. You only have 2 enhancers, Berserk and Regen, and if things don't work out, it's a little bit easy to sort of bounce over to something else. You aren't using Energy Leech, so do be wary of that. Like if they come across a pack and they just blow you up, it will be frustrating as always. But I find that compared to a build where you're using lots of enhancers and you're controlling one zombie, there's less moments where the January descends from the heaven, uses a spark shot on me and just like completely ruins my day, because January's always just seem to get spark shots. You know, very convenient for them. There's less of that going on with this build. It's a little bit more rough and tumble. It's more about kind of getting in there for a quick bite and then moving on to the next plan. If you can bite repeatedly with one zombie, that's great. If not, you can kind of set up for another scenario, and it's a little bit more dynamic, I find, than something like a sort of Stromby build. Another pro of this build is that every time you bite someone, they lose 15 seconds, the survivors. Every time they cough from the infection that you inevitably deal to them, they lose 5 seconds. There's a nice element of time attrition to this build. Yes, they will get time back when they inevitably kill the zombies that you bit them with, but I find that you can actually take off quite a lot of time from chain grabs if you're lucky enough to manage to do this. And even if you don't manage to down a survivor, like 2 15-second grabs and bites, even if it doesn't kill someone, is 30 seconds gone from the survivors. That's the same as having somebody be downed and then like time out and die, which is a lot. Obviously, if you do 2 grabs on someone, they go down and then they die, that's 60 seconds, plus the time that they spent on the floor, which is wasted. So yeah, it really stacks up, I find, and there's a nice sense of time attrition to this build, which can help you, particularly because without energy leech, you might not be spawning as many zombies, so you're less likely to completely overwhelm the map until Area 3. But if you're smart, you can take off quite a lot of time by playing in a more conservative manner, going for the bites, and just generally killing them that way. The cons of this build. First of all, Martin and Tyrone are really annoying to deal with. Martin, if he has mixtapes, or even if he has a reduced personal skill cooldown with his mines, he's like a reliable way to stun you over and over so you can't successfully do the grabs, because he can just like jam the G key as soon as he sees some zombie going for the grab animation. The fever skill key, that is. And with Tyrone, if he kicks you over and over, it does go through the passive for Daniel, where you can't be stunned by normal means. Yes, the melee weapons and the ranged weapons they're not able to do the knockback on you through their damage alone, but Tyrone can kick you repeatedly, so these two kind of counter the build, and it can be frustrating to play against them. Speaking of frustrating, another con of this build is that more so in Area 1 and 2, you'll find that the survivors have the ability to stun and run past you. This is just a kind of generally strong ability that the survivors have, and if they don't have like a death ball composition with a lot of damage, you might find that this occurs. If they stun and run and stick as a group, it's going to be really difficult for you to play against it. If somebody stuns and runs off by themselves, you have more of a counterplay to it. But do bear in mind that yes, it can be a little frustrating in the initial areas where your zombies die before they get the grab off successfully, or there's a lot of stun and run going on. But don't lose hope. As you saw in the footage earlier, you can win in Area 3, even from quite a big disadvantage. So hang in there, keep your cool, you've got this. And another con of this build, as I just mentioned, death ball groups are probably the way that this build gets countered most. Like Becca, Jill, Martin and Valerie as like just a ball that don't separate and just constantly kill things as quickly as possible. Fever skill on Jill's rockets, Martin constantly stunning you whenever you go for a grab. That's generally how this build tends to lose, and it's quite unfortunate, but you probably will have the occasional game where that happens, particularly if they're in voice comms together and they stick together. That's usually when you lose. So you need cocky survivors really that run off by themselves to have the best results. You might be able to win against a death ball group, but you'll have to play very smart. Good luck with that one. But that is the pros and cons of the Daniel build, the Munchy Daniel build. I wish you bon chance in all of your games if you do decide to try this build out. That means good luck in French, by the way. And let me know how it goes for you. I'm really glad to finally find a Daniel build that I like to play and has worked out for me. I wish you bon chance. Take care. This has been Sinow. Goodbye.